girls, and welcome to this week's maths lesson. Today's lesson is all about fractions, and you should find this lesson quite easy after learning the clock because we have already learned a little bit about fractions while doing the clock. Today we will be learning about halves and quarters. But first, what is a fraction? Well, the word fraction comes from a Latin word that means broken, and it represents part of something that is broken up equally. That may sound a little bit confusing, but let's explain further and it won't seem so difficult to understand. Let's start by looking at something that we have seen already, our pizza. So here is a full pizza. There are no slices in this pizza as it hasn't been cut yet. So we call it one whole pizza. Now let's cut or divide the pizza into slices. We will imagine that we are sharing this pizza between two people. So what if I cut the pizza into two parts like this? Would that be fair? Would each person eating the pizza get an equal part? No, definitely not. It is very unfair. One part of the pizza is much bigger than the other. So these parts of the pizza are not examples of fractions. A fraction is only when something is cut equally or fairly, meaning each part should be the same. So what if I cut the pizza like this instead? Do you think these pieces of pizza are examples of fractions? And if so, why? Well done! You are correct. These are fractions because this pizza has been cut into two equal halves, meaning that if I was sharing this pizza with you, each of us would have an equal amount, and that would be fair. When something is divided into two parts, each of these parts is called a half. A half is a fraction. A half is written like this: 1/2. The line in the middle represents the word of. This is because each part of the pizza is one of two equal parts. This side is one of two equal parts, and this side is one of two equal parts. And the most important thing to remember is that each part must be equal. Otherwise, it is not a fraction. Now let's look at this bar of chocolate. Yummy. Is this lesson making you hungry? It's making me hungry. So this bar is one whole bar of chocolate. How many squares of chocolate can you count on this bar? Well done! 24. It's great when chocolate bars have squares on them because it means it is so much easier to divide them into fractions, which means to divide them equally into parts. This is especially useful if you are sharing a bar of chocolate with a friend. So, there are 24 squares of chocolate on this bar. If I was to divide this bar of chocolate in half, or between two people fairly, where would I cut the bar? How many squares of chocolate would each of us get to make it fair? To figure this out, it is really useful to know our doubles tables. Knowing your doubles tables means it is easy to figure out what half of something is. For example, 1 + 1 = 2. And if 1 + 1 = 2, then half of 2 is 1. 2 + 2 = 4. Then half of 4 is 2. 3 + 3 = 6. Then half of 6 is 3. So what plus what equals 24? Well done! 12 + 12 = 24. So when we divide this bar, there must be 12 squares on either side. Now, there are two ways that we can split this bar into two equal parts. Can you guess what way we can divide it? Well done. We can split the bar vertically by cutting it here. Or we can split it horizontally by cutting it here. Both times, each side is called a half because each side is one of two equal pieces. In real life, what other things might we cut in half? Well done! We could cut a strawberry in half when making dessert, or a tomato when preparing a salad. A sandwich for our lunch might be cut in half, or a lemon could be cut in half before squeezing it for juice. Sometimes we can divide things into halves without cutting. For example, if we have 10 Haribo gummy bears like this, and if you and I both want to eat them, what would be the fairest thing to do? Well done! It would be fairest if we divided the gummy bears between us into two equal piles. So there are 10 gummy bears here. What is half of 10? Think of your doubles tables. What plus what equals 10? Well done! 5 plus 5 equals 10, meaning 5 is half of 10. So if we take away half of these bears, then we will be left with 5 gummy bears. Let's divide something else into halves. Look at these cute puppies. Aren't they gorgeous? How many are in the picture? Well done! 6. Now let's pretend that you and I wanted to adopt these puppies. How would we decide how many each of us should take home? What would be the fairest way of dividing them? Would it be fair if I took 5 home and you only got 1? No, it wouldn't, because that wouldn't be dividing something in half. What is half of 6? Think of your doubles. What plus what equals 6? Well done. 3 plus 3 equals 6, which means 3 is half of 6. If we both got 3 puppies each to bring home, then that would be fair. Shapes can also be divided into halves. Dividing a shape in half is a bit like finding the line of symmetry of the shape. Remember when we learned about symmetry earlier in the year? Symmetry means one side of a picture or shape must look exactly the same as the other. To divide this triangle in half, for example, we have to find its line of symmetry. Can you imagine it in your head? Is this what you guessed? Well done! By drawing the line here, each side is exactly the same as the other. And if each of these sides is exactly the same, then we call each side 1/2. Now let's try it with a square. Where is the line of symmetry in a square? Is there only one way of splitting the square equally into two parts, or is there more than one way of splitting it? Well done! There are two ways of dividing this square in half. This is one way, and this is the other way. Each time, the sides of the shape are examples of halves because they are always one of two equal parts. Good job, guys! Now we are going to learn about quarters. A quarter is when something is divided into 4 parts equally. Again, let's look at our whole pizza. If we divide it like this, is this an example of quarters? Well done! No, these are not 4 equal parts, so we know it is not a quarters fraction. But how about now? Well done. These are quarters. A quarter is 1/4. Again, the line in the middle means of. So each piece is one of 4 equal pieces. This is 1/4, this is 1/4, this is 1/4, and this is 1/4. Each is called a quarter. And there are 4 quarters in a whole. Did you notice? 2 quarters is the same as 1/2. In other words, 2 of 4 equal pieces is the same as 1 of 2 equal pieces. Meaning the rule is, there are 2 quarters in 1/2. Let's cut the chocolate bar into quarters. So here is the whole bar. When we halved the bar, we divided it into 2 equal parts. Now we must divide it again to make 4 equal parts, like this, which means 1/4 of 24 squares is 6 squares. The rule is, to find a quarter of a number, first you half the number, and then you half it again. Let's now divide sweets into quarters. Here are 8 sweets. To find out a quarter of these sweets, we must half the sweets and then half them again. Now they are in 4 equal piles. Each pile is one of 4 equal piles, so each pile is 1/4. Have a look at these Lego men. There are 16 Lego men. To find half, we think of our doubles. What plus what equals 16? Well done. 8 plus 8 equals 16. So 8 is half of 16. And to find a quarter, we now must half it again. So what is half of 8? Well done. 4 is half of 8. So 1/4 of 16 is 4. Let's revise the rule again. To find a quarter of something, first we half the number, and then we half the number again. Let's look at this shape. Is it divided into quarters? How many parts has it been cut into? Well done, 4 parts. But the big question is each part the same or equal? No. Well done, they are not. So this shape is not showing quarters. But how about this one? Yes. Well done. All 4 sections of this shape are equal in size, so these are examples of quarters. Let's do a coloring game. Here is an uncolored shape. It has 4 equal parts. If I asked you to color 1/4 of this shape, you would color one of these 4 parts. But if you saw this question, color 3/4 of the shape. What is 3/4? 3/4 means 3 of 4 equal parts. So if you were asked to color 3/4 of this shape, you would color 1 part, which is 1/4, 2 parts, which is 2/4, and finally 3 parts, 3/4. Our last section today is about comparing the sizes of fractions. For this, we will use our greater than, less than, and equal to signs. We are going to look at some fractions and decide which is bigger, smaller, or the same. Have a look at these two shapes. On this shape, 1/4 is colored. On this shape, 1/2 is colored. Which is greater? Which is the larger fraction? 1/2 or 1/4? Well done. 1/2 is bigger or greater than 1/4. How about this? Look at these two shapes. On this shape, 3/4 are colored. But on this shape, 1/2 is colored. Which is greater? Well done. 3/4 is greater than 1/2. And the sign always points mouth open to the bigger fraction, because remember, the greedy crocodile always opens his mouth to eat the biggest amount. Last one. Let's compare these two shapes. This one has 4/4 colored, and this one has 2/2 colored. Are these fractions greater than, less than, or the same as one another? Well done. These are the same, so we use an equal to sign. Before saying goodbye, let's revise all of our rules for today. Number 1. Fractions are when things are broken into equal parts. Number 2. There are 2 halves in one whole. Number 3. There are 4/4 in one whole. Number 4. 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Number 5. When finding a half of something, you divide it into 2 equal parts. And number 6. When you are finding 1/4 of something, first you find half, and then you half the answer again. Well done, guys. Be sure and practice your fractions lots over the next week, so you are ready for 3rd class. See you next time.